Now, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, Africans. I hope you're doing fine where you are, and if you ain't doing fine, please do fine where you are. You know, many Africans are not very fine right now. For some time now, I have been speaking about the war in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Yeah, there is a war. Probably you've heard about it. It's been continuing for the longest time possible. Those who know are saying that this war has taken place since, or rather for 30 years. This is the highest peak this war has reached since it started. M23 rebel, who are a group of tribesmen from Rwanda, who are called the Tutsis, you know. The Tutsis are moving into DRC and they want to conquer the government of DRC and change it. You know, it's called a coup d'etat. They are planning a coup d'etat against Kinshasa, against Felix Tshisekedi, who is by then the president of the Republic of Congo. It is worrying because anytime we have a coup, we don't think of peace. Anytime we have a coup, we think of casualties. There is collateral damage, you know. In as much as they want their agenda to be met, their agenda of changing the government, we have civilian lives on the line, which is greatly affected by this war. When I say Congolese, I'll be meaning the DRC in this context. You know, many Congolese have come forward and they are shedding light to their agenda and to the casualties and to the history and to all the things that is happening that is not being shown by the mainstream media. You know, the mainstream media may be hiding these things, and through interviews of individuals who are on the hotbed, individuals who are really facing the heat, is where we get the real story. I want us to listen to this gentleman, and then I shall get back by the end of the video, where we shall also dive into the video and have a deep, critical analysis. Let's dive in.
My name is Kambale Msavuli. I am the spokesperson and a policy analyst with the Center for Research on the Congo. I am Congolese, and I am currently in Accra, Ghana.
Kambale, it's great to have you on the take. I wonder if we can start by just locating this conversation a bit. We're talking about Goma, which is the largest city in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. For someone who is hearing the name Goma for the first time, why is this city so significant for the region, and why is it being fought over so fiercely?
So Goma, as you pointed out, is a city in the eastern part of the DRC. It's the capital city of North Kivu. North Kivu is one of the provinces of the Congo, and Congo is right in the center of Africa. So if you open the map of Africa, you put where you see where the Congo is. It straddles the equator, and it's the size of Western Europe. And it's strategically placed in a way where you can get to north, south, east, and west of Africa much faster. And Goma is a capital city that's close to the eastern trade route to ship things toward Kenya, toward Tanzania, and so on, to find its way to China or Japan or India even.
Yeah.
Also, Rwanda, right? It's right at the border of Rwanda. The other important thing about Goma is because due to the conflict, Goma is a city where you have the UN base there. You also have a lot of humanitarian organizations who have their office in Goma. So they work from Goma and then get into the different towns across the Congo. And last, for many battles around the world, taking over the capital city of a major province or major country is a claim of victory. So the rebels wanted to take over Goma to be able to control, of course, the flow of weaponry that the Congolese government may use, but also to claim victory that they now control the province of North Kivu. That's why Goma is very essential.
So this conflict has been building for a while. More than 500,000 people displaced just since the beginning of this year. But in recent days, there's really been a shift. There have been bodies on the streets. Hospitals there have been overwhelmed, people forced to flee. What changed that led to the escalation of violence that we're seeing now?
It's unclear of why the violence sparked in the past 2 to 3 weeks now. But what we do know is that in 2024, August of 2024, a ceasefire was signed between the Congolese government and the M23, so that there could be some type of stability to seek a diplomatic solution. But in that period, there have been attacks of the M23 on Congolese civilians. There have been movement of the M23 taking more and more town. And the M23 has accused the Congolese government as well of doing the same. And then right when the Congolese president, Tshisekedi, was at Davos, the M23 started its largest push to take over Goma by giving ultimatum, and they have now, we could say, have the control of the city of Goma. So it will be hard for me to become spokesperson for them. Yeah. But what I do is in the movement, while they're taking town, they are also taking control of mining sites, and they're creating different form of taxation, generating revenue, exploiting minerals such as coltan in the Rwanda mine, the largest coltan mine in the world, like coltan being a mineral resource used in cell phones. So they are making money, they are trading in minerals, they're committing war crimes, according to the UN High Commission for Human Rights Office, documenting this. And unfortunately, ordinary people, people we know, people we work with, family members are being affected by the action. And as we are speaking now, the town of Goma is under their control.
Yeah. So by seizing the town of Goma, you'll also seize the control over those resources, mines that have resources that are very valuable in the manufacturing of cell phones. On one side, you have M23, which, according to the United Nations, is backed by Rwanda. Now, Rwanda denies that, but there's no denying that Rwanda is benefiting tremendously from this conflict. Can you tell us the extent to which Rwanda is involved in all of this and why?
It's totally logical for Rwanda to deny, right? Because we are talking about connecting them to a militia group committing crimes. I mean, I doubt that Rwanda will say, yes, we are actually supporting the M23. Right. They will not do that. But what we do have is evidence, right? Photographic evidence, video evidence, independent sources on the ground showing what they have done. They're using sophisticated weapons. I mean, can you imagine M23 is using night vision goggle? They have the same vehicle. For those who follow like military movement, you will know that those are they call it a surface-to-air missile. Those are missiles that can take down even a drone, right? Right. They're shooting at UN drones, right? So you don't buy a same vehicle at your car dealer, right? Yeah. These are sophisticated weapon. It's being tracked down to be part of the Rwanda Defense Force. Lot of weapons, right? So we know the evidence is presented, is denied by Rwanda, but it can be refuted because you can see it.
Kambale, can I just ask about the exact nature of the denial? Are they saying that they have nothing at all to do with M23 and that they're fine with this independent militia operating on its western edge with this sophisticated weaponry?
Yeah, Rwanda has stated that they are not supporting the M23 and that the M23 is a Congolese problem. And that is for the Congolese government and Congolese people to solve that problem.
In order for anything to be successful, the DRC must play a helpful role. After all, this is a Congolese problem for which the DRC is looking to outsource its solution. The solution to this problem cannot be outsourced.
So that's the level of denial. But at the same time that they're making this statement, they add that they will do everything in their power to protect the nation, so they have the right to engage militarily so that there will not be another genocide in Rwanda.
Right.
So it's almost covering for what they are doing. So beyond what they're saying, the facts on the ground are now much more clear. From even the taking over of Goma, Africa Intelligence published an article where they are alleging that the M23 assault on Goma used assault drones and other sophisticated weaponry. But rather, they will deny, even with the facts, those with power to hold them accountable are not moving.
So I want to ask you about that in a second, the accountability. One more question about the extent that Rwanda is involved. You said that M23 is very sophisticated militarily. They're also very sophisticated economically. M23 is issuing mining permits. They're forming a state-like administration. That's according to a UN report. And the minerals that they're extracting from these mines are being routed into Rwanda. So what does that say about Rwanda's involvement?
Well, this is the historical involvement of Rwanda in the Congo since 1996. In 1996, the rebel group that is today M23 was called AFDL. They were issuing mining permits. This is why the claim is easy to dismiss, is that you see that they have economic interest. So they go where the mines are, they go where they can make money, and then the money that they make is also to support their war effort, it's also to support their backers. But the challenge for me is not just the sophistication of what they are doing, right? Is that for the past 30 years, with all the evidence that exists, how come nations supporting Rwanda and Uganda continue to only issue condemnation and no action? That's what's the most bizarre. Because these weapons, for example, that the M23 is using, is not manufactured on the African continent. How come we can't track down these weapons? Why aren't we holding the people supporting the M23 accountable?
More with Kambali after the break. Let's talk about accountability or the lack thereof. First off, we should say the siege of Goma is clearly having an impact. The Congolese government cut ties with Rwanda over the weekend. In the capital, Kinshasa, protesters have been attacking foreign embassies. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has demanded that M23 withdraw troops. But all of this talk has led to very little action. So, Kambali, my question is, how do you think that Rwandan President Paul Kagame's relationship with the international community factors into all of this?
There has been a media or PR campaign to present Rwanda in a certain light as a model country in the world. Coming out of the genocide, look at what they've done. They've increased the GDP, the development is moving forward, and so on. But when it comes to the crimes of Rwanda, particularly the United States, does not want to hold Rwanda accountable. Right? And the reason why the United States does not want to hold Rwanda accountable is because Rwanda, and I will also add Uganda, these two nations are U.S. allies on the so-called war on terror. What does that concretely mean? It means that these nations give their soldiers to go fight American wars. So Ugandan soldiers are in Iraq, are in Afghanistan. Rwandan soldiers have been deployed for U.S. interest. They've been deployed in Haiti, they've been deployed in Mali, and lately even they are in Mozambique. So Western nations, because they don't want to engage directly on the African continent in some cases since Black Hawk Down, they use now African as mercenaries. Now, the impact of that is that how are you going to hold them accountable for using the same weapons you gave them for other missions to commit crimes elsewhere? But it has happened before, where pressure was mounted on Western nations to hold Rwanda accountable, and it worked in 2012, and we may get into that shortly.
So you've talked about this relationship, but what about the economic relationship? I know that the EU struck a mineral deal with Rwanda last year. Rwanda is making a lot of money through selling minerals to the West, to companies, private companies. That economic relationship, does that play a factor in the lack of accountability?
Absolutely. I mean, think about what you just said. Last year, the European Union struck a deal for critical minerals with Rwanda. This same European Union put out a statement also condemning Rwanda of supporting the M23 rebels. This same European Union provided weapons last year to financial support for weapons last year to the Rwandan government. The European Union has the evidence of the UN group of experts showing that the rebel M23 in the Rubaya mine extracting coltan are taking the coltan from the Congo, bringing it into Rwanda, and shipping it out to the world, and pretty much mixing it with whatever is there so that it will be hard to trace if it came from the Congo or not. So they have the evidence, but why do they need Rwanda to be the intermediary, right? They're getting the cost of the minerals much cheaper because they're not dealing with Congolese directly. But most importantly, we must know why Congo is destabilized for the past 2 decades. Congo is essential to the fourth industrial revolution. Mm-hmm. You cannot talk about AI without the Congo. You cannot fly a drone without Congo. You cannot have advanced technology without Congo. Why? Congo is the number one producer of cobalt in the world. It has one of the largest reserves of coltan in the world, and it has one of the largest lithium reserves in the world at Manono, right? So as long as Congo is kept destabilized and its resources are pilfered to other countries that can rebrand it as Rwandan product, then you don't have to deal with the DRC directly. And this actually happened 100 years ago with King Leopold, right? King Leopold of Belgium getting the rubber that was needed for the tires of the car, because there was the first industrial revolution then. They didn't have to deal with the DRC, and 10 to 15 million people die under King Leopold. And we are facing the same thing now.
So the Congolese president, he's, trying to draw attention to this issue. The UN is clearly aware of what's happening. Will the UN be able to do anything that puts a stop to any of this?
Those who can do something are the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. But we have a problem, right? The problem is there are 2 or 3 members who will veto anything that may come out to hold Rwanda accountable. The first one will be the United States. And when you even think about that, you start even thinking about what is happening in Palestine, right? That the United States will always take a position to support its ally. So this is why Rwanda has not been held accountable. So the pressure cannot come from this government. The pressure has to come from below. It has to come from the people, right? The people of these countries, do they know, for example, that you are not able to deal with the fire in Los Angeles because your taxpayers' money is going to fund despot dictators on the African continent? So the more we are communicating with US citizens, with European citizens, in reminding them that the governments are doing really hideous dealings on the continent, then we have a chance.
Kambale, we get wrapped up talking about these big picture topics, international forces at play. It's easy to lose sight of the human element. Goma has 2 million people, which is roughly the size of Vienna. It's under siege. It's without power. I know you have loved ones in the region who are caught in the crossfire here. Just on a personal level, how are they doing? How are you doing?
It's a very difficult question you're asking me. We have family members there. We have people we work with who are there on the ground. One thing that touched me in the past few days is that I received a picture of people I know in Goma sending me a picture saying that we are okay because they were able to get internet connection. And when I saw that picture, it reminded me of myself. I left the Congo as a refugee in 1998 as well. So I lived through the First War. And that picture showed what we went through also in 1996 to 98. For anyone who's seen war, when they see that picture, how can I describe it? The furniture in the house, all of it was pushed to the wall. And then they were all sitting by the wall and they took like a selfie. Why were they on the wall? It's because if they shoot and the bullet comes through the wall, it will not have the same strength. And if it does go through that wall, if it hits again another object, it will slow down. It's to protect themselves.
Wow.
And the people that I know, when we are communicating, they are wondering why for the past 30 years they have to live this way. that they know how to protect themselves from bullets. These are ordinary citizens, and I'm happy they are okay. At least most of the people that I know I've been able to connect with so far, they are doing well. They're worrying about the lack of electricity, lack of access to water. People are worrying about what they have to do for the next meal. And then outside of those who are in conflict, there is a Congolese diaspora, right? Where we are all worried about what's happening to our loved ones there. And all of us are stressed. I mean, I've shared with people that I have not slept for the past 4 days for more than 2 hours, just to make sure that everyone is fine, especially on Sunday as they were trying to take over the city of Goma. And you cannot get a hold of anyone. And you're wondering, are they okay? Are they not okay? And you can't sleep. So that takes a toll, not just on the people on the ground, but also those on the outside, those who are organizing the protests. And that's what gives us the strength, that we're seeing young Congolese organizing protests across the world, in Paris, in Belgium, so on, in New York. People are organizing the Free Congo movement, that we need to denounce the situation there. So it's tough. It's something that I have had to deal with for the past 30 years. Yeah. But I'm still convinced that we still have to tell the story to the people. And when people know, they will take action to end the carnage in the Congo.
Kambale, thank you for coming on The Take.
Thank you so much.
Now, after carefully listening to this video, here is my verdict. Here is something I can say about the war going on in Congo, because the world is hypocritical. The world is not a place you can trust with justice. Those people who say that they are orchestrators, those people whom we think are the pinnacle of democracy, ain't really the pinnacle of democracy, And, they say that nothing new is under the sun. Of course, this gentleman just said that when his family sent him the pictures of them in Goma, it reminded him of his refugee situation in 1994 when he fled DRC. So they had a war in 1994, and also they had a war in 1996. This particular individual speaking is not living in Congo, but he's a Congolese, and he's being reminded of the past. Think of what happened to Patrice Lumumba. The CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, a military section of the United States of America, was involved in the capture and the extermination of the Prime Minister back then, who was Patrice Lumumba. The Belgium government was also involved. The military, the MI6, Military Intelligence Section 6 of the British Army, the MI6 popularly known, took part in capturing Patrice Lumumba. And yet, these people are always standing on podiums, standing on international stage, and telling the rest of the world that if anyone is there who is, okay, let me put it in a way you can understand it well. Now, the international community, the UN, we have the US, we have countries such as the ones in Europe, Britain. These countries are always pretending to be the orchestrators of justice. Remember what happened in Afghanistan. Remember what happened in Iraq. Remember what happened in Pakistan. In Iraq, they lied to us that Saddam Hussein was building weapons of mass destruction. They lied that way, and the whole world believed it. What happened next? After the termination of Saddam Hussein, what happened? How is Iraq today? Iraq has been destabilized. Leave alone that. Go to Libya. What happened to Libya when the NATO now, USA is the member of the NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. They took part in the extermination of Muammar Gaddafi. This Muammar Gaddafi was a man who was fighting for the right of Africans. He was fighting for the unification of Africans. He was fighting against the US dollar. But the United States of America and the NATO followed up with the proverb of, If you want to kill a dog, give it a bad name. Muammar Gaddafi was given a bad name by the NATO. And so everyone hated him. Everyone, literally everyone. In the US, those white people and some people who belong to his country, it was long after he was killed by Barack Obama that we saw Libya crumble, that we saw the emergence of Islamic terrorist groups. After the death of Muammar Gaddafi is when we saw problems in Mali, we saw problems in Burkina Faso, we saw problems in Niger. This is after the US and the NATO touched Africa. And now this is what I'm going to tell you. I'm telling you what you already know. Anything that the NATO and the US touches dies. That is what happens. But there's one superpower that has overcome them, that they can't touch, that is equal in power as they. It's Russia. Russia is a powerful country, but it never colonized any single African country, you know? That man who we are told each now and then that he's bad, he's all this. Putin is someone who knows these people for their true color and is always exposing them. Africans are welcoming Russians, but expelling the West, you know? The problem happening in Congo is a problem that would have not reached where it has reached now. Those women who died and those children who died could have not died if those people who say that they are the orchestrators of justice would have done what they stand for. You know, don't just talk your talk, walk your talk. Don't preach wine and take water. The same wine you preach, take it. If you preach water, take the same water, you know. The USA and the West are taking part in the destruction of Congo so that they can have the legal right, so that they can have an access to the Congo minerals, you know. Congo is the most, I don't know how many times I've said this, Congo is the most developed and the most richest and the most fullest of minerals. Without this camera, without this phone, without this microphone, Congo, if it did not exist, we wouldn't have all this. The gentleman said that, you know. But now the West are finding a back door. And they're finding a back door with the country of Rwanda. Just think of it. How tiny is Rwanda? How tiny is that country? Think of DRC. Even Kenya, my own country. DRC is 9 times bigger, the size of Kenya. Kenya gets into DRC 9 times. Just imagine that. Imagine that perspective. 9 times Kenya gets into where? DRC. But how about Congo? How about it? So, if you come to think of it, Congo is not being fought by a single country. These are not just M23. The West is also fighting Congo to destabilize it and to have access to their minerals, you know? And so, the West has always pretended that, oh, we are here to fight terrorism, we are here to fight dictators, we are here to fight for human rights. But no, these countries are here to fight for their own interest. They make no friends. They make friends with their minerals. Even Rwanda might think they are friends with the US and those Western countries, but no. The West is always interested on what you can give them. Once Rwanda lacks what it can be given, I'm telling you, Rwanda will perish. Rwanda is not just Rwanda alone. Rwanda is backed by some invisible, not invincible. If Africa decides to topple them, we will topple them, you know? So the West should stop pretending that they are orchestrators of justice. They are hypocrites, you know? They give these people weapons because those weapons are not manufactured in Africa. Russia cannot supply them with weapons. South America cannot supply them with weapons. We are left with the 2 continents who are likely to do that. Europe, Western Europe particularly, and where? USA. Those 2 can, because Russia can't do such a thing, you know? So we have the UN and then we have the veto powers, the 5 permanent members. If they say something, it sticks. But in these very, very veto powers, there is another veto power inside it. I'm just giving you a perspective. Even if these 5 people vote that we want M23 to leave DRC, there are two countries, USA being one of them, and they say, no, this is not going to happen. It won't happen. It overrides all the decisions of the world. Makes you think, what is the United Nations? What is it? I think it should be called the United States then. Yeah, states, like, it's not nations now, it's a states, like in the USA, the states. They make decisions for the whole world. Hypocritical decisions, very hypocritical. Rwanda is not being held accountable because it has military ties, economic ties, political ties with the West. And because Rwanda is giving them what they want, they will protect Rwanda. If Rwanda was not giving them what they wanted, you would have seen what would have happened. For Felix Tshisekedi, you see how he spoke to the president of France, Macron. You saw how he spoke to him the other day. Leave Africa. Stop thinking, don't speak to me like you're speaking to one of your MPs. You know, respect me. I'm just paraphrasing what he said. Felix Tshisekedi. So he is not a friend to the West. Automatically, he'll become an enemy to them. Logically, he becomes, you know. You either become our friend or you become our enemy. There's no in between. But Rwanda even accepted refugees to come in there and stay. The problem going on in Congo is a problem that involves the West. Rwanda is not just fighting M23 and DRC alone. They are being backed. And the West is taking part in all this because they want the riches of the Congo. And it all started with the Berlin Conference. I only blame the white colonizers for this problem. They are the root cause of this problem. And always remember, the love for money is the root of all evil. And that is why we are having suffering in Congo. This is EFK Original Documentaries. If you like what I do, subscribe to the channel. I shall surely appreciate. And see you in the next one.